Hello, my name's Dan. I'm not an expert, but I am going to change out the transmission on my 52 TD. I didn't see any other videos on the level of detail I'm hoping to share today, so if this helps anyone, great. This is my TD. I'm mainly replacing the transmission because it's slipping out of second gear. And I've already drained the transmission fluid. That's the only thing I've done. There is, of course, the TD manual, operating manual, Midget Series TD and TF. And then under gearbox, rather than transmission, you have the instructions there. So the first thing I'm going to do is remove the floor mats and take out the floorboard and the cowling, which in itself seems daunting, but we're going to give it a try. First, what I assume is the easy part, pulling out the mats. Ooh, that's pretty dirty. Maybe I'll vacuum that before I put it back in. Now on the driver's side, this is left-hand drive, imported for Americans that drive on the correct side of the road. I'm not sure of the purpose of this other than maybe a little more foot room or protect the carpet flooring from the heels of the driver. Looks like it's snapped over here. This has been restored, so your configuration may not be the same, but looks like I have a snap right there. I'm gonna have to put this phone down to get that. Looks like it's bolted. No, it's not bolted down there. Maybe it snaps there too. I see the back side of a snap, but nothing to snap it to. But it is partly underneath that nut, that bolt, so I'm going to take that out. I guessed incorrectly that was a 1/2 inch, but it appears to be a 13 millimeter. Just loose enough to get the carpet out from under it. At that point, it looks like this side is loose. Kind of a helter-skelter mess that they've done with it, almost just laying this stuff in there. But it seems to work. Got a bit of a wing nut up here where the gearbox grease fluid goes in. I'll take that cap off and set it aside. I do have some snaps up here at the top. Same kind of snaps that the attached to tonneau cover. Tonneau, however you say that. We called it tonneau when I was growing up. My dad had a MG. That's where I fell in love with them. That right one popped off easily by hand. This one looks like I'm gonna have to pop it off with a screwdriver. Looks like it's maybe already tearing the fabric, or oh, there, it's off. Yeah, the whole thing came off. So it was a kind of a false anyway. So that's out. Guessing this piece doesn't seem to be, seems like a light adhesive on it. And I'll probably have to take the gear knob off to get this off all the way, that little boot there. You can also tell I'm an amateur photographer and that it's a little bit hot here in Texas still. September 12th, 11th. Rather than putz around trying to find the size of this, I decided just using a crescent wrench. Again, holding camera and tightening crescent wrench. For me, it's a challenge. Okay, got it loose, and hopefully that'll just, twist off. Since the passenger side's already loose, I'm gonna see what else I need to do here. It doesn't look like anything except just, I'll probably have to take that nut off to get that the rest of the way off. And of course you put it in your mouth and hold it and don't swallow it. Okay, that's off the carpet, off the cowling. Might be a bit of a challenge to get it off of the pedals. Again, especially with one hand, but it's all in here loose. Yeah, no, this will work easy. But need two hands. I couldn't get this side off the snap that I was talking about earlier, so I'm just going to drape it out. I think it'll be out of the way. So now we're to the floorboard. Cowling probably has to come next, but according to the manual, the floorboard has to come out. We'll see. As I look at this cowling, it looks like I see a lot of daylight, first of all. I see new screws, and I see nothing where it should be up there in terms of screws or nuts or bolts. So if I have the opportunity when I put it back in, I'll do a better job. That looks like it's kind of boogered up, so I hope that won't give me trouble. Basically I have to take all the screws and bolts out of this, and then I did see a video on a guy that was trying to get it off, had a little difficulty getting it past the accelerator, and also he had to shift the gears a little bit to get it off the gear shift. So we'll see what we have. I'll go ahead and try and remove the screws. Same for the driver's side. I see a little bit of daylight and like one screw here and one back there. Seems to be in better condition than the other side, but we'll see. But again, missing all kinds of opportunities. Kind of like that. Let me get back here. I'm not sure if the floorboard is holding the cowling down or the cowling is holding the floorboard up. Anyway, I'm going to get the other Phillips screws out of the other side before I try that one in the back. Like I said, just the one on this side apparently. Alright. A little shallow box up here just to put the small parts in so I don't lose them. So if I can get back here to this one. I'm gonna have to, yeah, it's gonna be a little tricky. I'm gonna turn this off. Here's a sample of the high quality workmanship gone into this. This just is held on by a screw under the brake pedal. Anyway, it's out of the way. Again, this is a rubber piece over the cowling. It comes off easily, I'd say. Let's see. Have to get it under that hook right there. Might have to turn it at an angle. Two hands. Hooked under the bottom, it just comes off real easy. Hope I remember to put that back on. Okay, that screw on the left, again, it seemed to be a, what do they call it? Placebo. I don't know that it was in anything, but I got it out. Okay, back to the passenger side with that one that seems to be a little messed up, but I think with this big screwdriver it'll work. That music in the background is from WRR 101.1 in Dallas, classical music. Been on for over 100 years. I don't know if they were always classical music, but they have been since I moved here. Oh, okay, it's gonna be a little tight. Looks like this one's actually fastened. Hold on. I went underneath to see if there might be a nut holding that on that might make it easier to take off from there. and there wasn't. Apparently this is actually built in, so I'm gonna put a little penetrating spray on there and let it sit a little bit and see if it comes out more easily. Okay, trying this again now. Must be why that thing's boogered up, as I say. That may be a Texas phrase, I don't know. Southern. All right. Plan C. To Lowe's and got a screwdriver with a bigger bite. It's what's that say? I can't read it. Whatever that says. 3/4, 3/8. I don't know. Anyway, you can see it has a bigger bite than the screwdriver I was using, plus a little bit more torque. So we're going to try that before we try any kind of drastic method. At this point, this has been the hardest part so far, but I'm sure it'll get harder. All right, that seems to want to bite in there. Let me see if I can get the phone to stay up so I can use both hands. I don't know what that's showing even. Oh well, let me try it. Can't get the right angle and pressure on it. I'll save you the pain of watching this. Okay, I'm on plan D, I think. I took the screwdriver back and paid twice as much for this screw removal kit. So the small drill bit on the right, on the left of that package, you drill a hole in there, and then you put the one on the right into the end of that, and you basically counter screw at that point. It's supposed to work. And that basically, the thing on the right in this package is a lever, if you will. Put it in the hole that you see on the left, goes all the way through. Use that to crank it out. So we're going to try that next. Yeah, I'm starting with a punch just to make sure that I stay in the middle of the screw and not slip off to the side with the drill. So I have to put this down because I got to hammer that a little bit. So got it out. Here it is. It's really, I'm going to clean it up. Bottom side, I guess that's road grime. There's a bunch of grease right in there for some reason, or maybe it's being thrown out from somewhere. Anyway, I'll clean that up before I put it back in. But the next step looks like I'm going to have to remove the seats in order to get the floorboard out. Again, to get the transmission out. Although when I look at that, well, that's what it says to do, so we'll see. As I look at this, I wonder whether someone else may have just cut the floorboard to get it out, because you see the big gap we have in here anyway. But I'm wondering, as I look at the connections, I think it'll clear with enough help labor-wise from my son and grandson to lift it out. But I'm going to start by trying to remove it without taking out the seats or the floorboard. So the manual says to jack up the engine unit. I just put support under it so that it wouldn't drop, and I can still easily jack it up more if I need to with that, I'll call it a crank jack. And then for my own purposes, I put a jack under the transmission itself, because I'm not sure what's going to happen when I get everything loose. Definitely don't want it to drop down and damage anything else. And again, I can drop that quickly. I'll probably want some help the day I actually lift that transmission out. So, but that's where I am right now. Okay, I'm about to loosen the drive shaft. The bolts seem to be 14, 13 millimeter, 13 on your right side there, 14 on the left. And I'm going to take the top ones off and then get underneath to lower it easily. The manual says to mark it, but it's only marking if you're putting it to get the drive shaft back in the right place if you're disconnecting both ends, apparently. So I'm only disconnecting the front. I'm told on one forum that I don't need to mark anything if I'm putting it back on, even if it's a different transmission. So that's my plan. I have these turned out to both be 13 millimeter, or pretty darn close. I have some Whitworth tools, but they're sockets only. I don't have any open end or box end wrenches. So, and actually I notice I'm missing a bolt. If you'll notice down there at the bottom. So, it gives me an opportunity to correct that situation. I'm going to put this down so I can have both hands. Well, when all else fails, use a crescent wrench. There we go. I won't bore you with this. Okay, I got the drive shaft loose, and it catches on the cross member back there anyway, so that's as far down as it goes, so no real worries there. You can see the 3 bolts that I took out are quite worn, so I think I'm just going to replace those with hardware store bolts or automotive store bolts. One was loose also. So, and I'm going to check the rear end of that drive shaft to make sure that I have our 4 bolts there and that they're tight. Okay, disconnecting the speedometer cable. Just use some water pump pliers on that. Oops. There we go. As I was looking at the transmission mounts, I found that one bolt is completely missing and the other side is loose. I posted still pictures of that and asked whether that might be the cause of my transmission coming out of second or whether that was just wishful thinking. The consensus was wishful thinking. One person said put in bolts and try it, but at this point I'm so far along, I'm just going to keep going. And also the consensus, like I said, was that it's wishful thinking on my part. So, next step. Okay, I've got this nut that looks like it's holding the transmission onto that mount. And then I mentioned a minute ago I've got this loose bolt over here. Kind of blurry, dead center. And then totally missing the bolts in that hole dead center on this side. So I'm hoping that the mount stays in, the transmission comes out. So I'm just going to take out this middle bolt. I also, hold on. I mentioned earlier I have a Whitworth socket set, and I tried 9/16, 1/2, tried 13 and 14 millimeter, and this seems to fit it best, 1/4 Whitworth. So I'm going to use that to remove that nut. It's really loose. I may be able to hand loosen it now already. I'll spare you. Okay, I'm starting to take out the bolts that attach the transmission to the engine. Got one out. I saw a video where a guy had different size bolts that came out, so he said make sure you know where they came out of. But somebody posted to that was a fluke. They should all be the same, just somebody put some wrong size bolts back in there or whatever. So I've got one out. I'm gonna leave that top one in for now and get the others out. A couple of them I'll have to get from the bottom. Maybe that video I referenced wasn't a fluke after all, because as you can see, I've now taken out 2 bolts and they're different sizes. In fact, the taller bolt on your left was a 1/2 inch socket, and the one on the right is a little bit larger, but it wasn't a 9/16, so I went back to my Whitworth pile again, and same Whitworth 1/4 that I needed on the underside. There was no lock washer on it, and it was actually loose. I didn't even have to, as it turned out, didn't need the wrench or the socket. Hopefully you won't have this guessing game, but that one's a 5/16 Whitworth. And I don't know what that one is, but I'll get to it. This bolt's on the driver's side. A 1/2 inch is a little too big, but 13, 14 millimeter, blah, blah, blah. And I couldn't get the Whitworth on it anyway because of the space. So I'm using the box end of a 1/2 inch. Fortunately, it wasn't real loose, but I'm concerned about stripping it when I put it back on and tighten it. But I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. Well, I failed to video maybe the most important part, which is actually getting the old one out, that's it right there. Here's the new one. I only had to take one part off the old one, and that's right down here on the bottom. I'm not sure what it's called, but there's a cotter pin and a little, yeah, do you see it? Well, you'll see it. But I did not have to take the seats out, covered them up, and got my grandson on this side and my son on the other side. And like I said, I think it's been cut out. The floorboard's been cut out by someone else, as I suspected, so that one could remove the transmission. I don't think I want to take the clutch off and inspect it at this point. If I can see anything in there or feel anything, then I might. But at this point, I'm going to leave that alone because that doesn't seem to be my problem. At any rate, that's where we are right now. I would have put the new one in today with my son and grandson's help. By the way, I was underneath it operating the jack and lifting and clearing without pinching fingers. My grandson was over on this side because he's skinnier and could fit. And my son, who's very strong, was on that side. And I got it out, lifted it, carried it around, and all is good. So I had to get some grease. You're supposed to put some grease on there. Went to AutoZone and got this. I'm used to Permatex being more of a gasket adherent, but this is white lithium grease produced by Permatex, and I'm thinking it'll work. Minimize blah blah blah. I won't do an advertisement for them because I don't care. Anyway, that's where we are. I've ordered a replacement. Well, I had to get another grommet anyway. I'll call it that, a rubber piece that it's like a washer that goes right in here. Get the light. Goes right on top of that hole you see there. And then these two pieces, as you can see, are loose. They come with that set. I bought them from Moss Motors. And once I get those received in the mail, we'll go to putting it back in. I also have to get some more grease or transmission fluid. So I went to my handy dandy manual, and you can see here there's a chart, and under letter B there, for the gearbox, my temperatures here in Texas won't be extreme cold, and then it has these different brands, which of course either out of business or British. But basically we're looking at some kind of a measure there called 90. So I don't know what that stands for, but that's what I'll be looking for when I go to look for a fluid. Sorry if this is a little shaky. Okay, that's about 85 pounds I'm told, but I think I can put it in. The hard part was taking it out where I needed more help, and I may still need more help putting this in, but I'm going to give it a try. Try not to scratch anything. Okay, if you want to go to the other side, then you pick it up. Okay, I'm almost seated. I've got new rubber bumpers, and mainly because the center rubber washer was worn out, and it all came as a kit. Anyway, it took me a bit to get it up there. I greased the spline like I said I would. I'm going to put the bottom bolt in and see if I can't draw it up a little bit tighter. Of course, I'm not going to tighten that all the way till I get them all in. Let's see, but I'm making good progress. So I'm having a little trouble getting some of the bolts that I took out to catch, to start. So I put the jack right under the lip of the transmission housing, bell housing, and that seemed to close the gap, but not yet. So now I'm starting to tighten up some of the bolts that do take across from each other, kind of like you would put on nuts on a tire, a wheel, when you're refastening that or reattaching. And so we'll see if that serves to bring it close enough to get these others started. We'll have it in and bolted in. I highly recommend replacing all the bolts. It looks like they're all either 3/8 by 24 or 5/16 by 24, and then you won't have the issues of too many different size wrenches. I ended up with a 1/2 inch and 9/16. I replaced some of them, but not all of them. But I wish I'd done all of them looking back. I also had to get a rethreading tool in order to rethread one of the places in the engine block. I think it was missing a bolt when I took it out. I don't recall, but I have bolts in all of them now. Failed to mention this earlier, but you do have to take the bolts out from the this holder for the exhaust in order to get the transmission out. When we put the transmission back in, the actual black part you see right in the center there had got jammed, and so I had to take the bracket out that goes around the exhaust, and now I'm having some difficulty getting it back in. So that's a mistake to avoid, but it's just one of those things. This is the rear support. First attempt, I had this tightened up already. I don't recommend that, so you can still adjust the height of the engine and transmission in order to get everything lined up, and then put this in last. I ordered a new, I think I said this earlier, new supports, the rubber supports and grommet from Moss Motors. You put the same nut back on with a washer this time. So one of the threads on one of the U-bolt to hold the exhaust in somehow got boogered up. I tried to figure out a tap and die rethreading thing, but they couldn't really help me at the auto parts store. So I bought one. This is what I bought. May or may not work for you, but note the size on that. I would have thought it was, I measured the inside diameter, and it was like 1 3/4, but that didn't work. 1 5/8 works. So previously mentioned the lubricant for the gearbox, and for my climate it's 90, like that fourth line from the top. Anyway, I showed you that before. So I went to my local auto store and got this. I'm not sure if you fill it up all the way or not. It's not real clear in here. It doesn't give you a quantity, but I'm going to get it close to full and assume there needs to be a little room for expansion with the heat. Got the speedometer cable back on. Again, my floorboard's kind of cut up. In fact, I kind of expanded that one cut accidentally by the transmission, but I pretty much had to get it started from the bottom and then tighten it from the top with pliers. I found a dipstick, so that should help me with the transmission fluid amount. So I'll check and see what it says after I get this off. Okay, low, normal, high. So that's what I'm looking for, normal. Okay, felt like about 1/4 of the bottle, but I'll try my, need 2 hands for the dipstick to check that. Okay, let's see where we are. A little bit more. It's just at the top of low right now. Okay, near the top of normal, so I'm gonna stop there. This is how many ounces? Probably says somewhere, but I used about, I don't know, a little more than half. There it was right at the bottom, a quart. So again, I used probably 2/3 of that quart. There's a little brass ring, so make sure you don't use it, lose it rather. Got a little extra spilled on there. Feels pretty snug. Getting ready to take it on a test run. Hopefully this nut that I took off the old transmission. Oh yeah, nice. Actually, there's another one there. I don't know if that's the old one or what. But get this on. I have to take that old one off if I need the space. I don't know. Let's see, I have to go around there and then bring that, again, a 2-handed jack. Okay, now I'm looking around the garage to see if I have any parts left. I put new bolts on the drive shaft, so those are don't need those anymore. It only had 3, I think I mentioned earlier. That's the old gear shift knob. That is a piece I'll put on when I put in the floor, but I'm not going to put all that stuff in now until I take it for a test drive. So I take it off the jacks, get out everything under it, and see what happens.
Favorite launch that leaves the San Francisco Symphony.
Okay, after multiple attempts to adjust the clutch correctly, I think I got it out of line a little bit. I have an adjustable operating rod and may have moved that some. Anyway, successful test drive. Now I'm putting this shroud back in. You have to make sure you get it past that and below that part of the bottom of the gear shift. So, wish I had my old gear shift lever. I don't know how hard that is to take off, but this one's sure scratched up. Anyway, I did put my old knob on, which is in better shape. I think I mentioned that earlier. So here goes. Note also that I put the gear in 2nd or 4th in order to move that little pin there as far forward as possible. Success. So I got both of my feet down where I could press on both sides, and then I took a screwdriver here. Oops, it's not a screwdriver, and I just lifted up a little bit, pried that up a tiny bit while pushing, and it moved forward. Did I even get that?
I always move the camera when I don't want to. Anyway, put the screwdriver right there and lift it up on that lip to get it past. That seemed to have helped.
Once I untangled myself and got back out of the vehicle, I was able to just move it up by hand. And so start putting the bolts in. Start putting the bolts in now. Idling about 1600 RPMs. So it's cold out right now, high 50s, but everything's going well, right? Right. I realized I spent too much time showing how to get that one bolt out of the floorboard on the cover to the transmission. Anyway, I finally had to use a grinding tool to get it off, but I didn't damage anything in that process. So I was able to get a bolt back in there. Of course, I left out, putting everything back in carpet-wise and all that, but it's running great now. And I used to have a preacher that said, I'm just a blind squirrel trying to show another blind squirrel where to find an acorn. And so if this helps you, I'm glad. Anyway, that's all I've got. Probably won't ever do another one of these on any topic, but I thought this might help someone. Thank you.